Pelosi earlier today talking about what we would hear tonight. As you said, she wanted to hear a list of the things that President Biden has accomplished. With that, we bring in Jake Auchincloss, congressman from the great state, I guess state or Commonwealth? Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I always forget Massachusetts in that list. How does the president go about taking credit for some things, striking this optimistic tone, while acknowledging the hard truth that there's a lot of people in middle America who are hurting right now?
This president inherited the worst crisis in our democracy since the Civil War, the worst public health crisis since World War I, the most complicated economic situation since World War II. And we haven't solved all those problems in the first 12 months. I think he needs to assert to the American people, we still have significant challenges, but we are putting COVID behind us. We're going to put a strong economy ahead of us, and we're going to protect democracy at home and abroad.
I have to ask you, because there's no masks in Congress tonight. Now there's no masks at the White House. Now there's no masks in D.C. It just all happened to happen today. Is the timing a little too coincidental to take the political victory lap?
The CDC has appropriately changed its metrics from infection rates towards hospitalizations to reflect the actual tripwire that we need to be monitoring in public health. And masking requirements are adjusting accordingly.
And it's quite convenient that it happened today. But go ahead.
I think what we're seeing is we have the ability.
Are we acknowledging, though, the reality that the American people are done with COVID, that they're over it?
Without question, 2022 is the year that we control COVID. COVID does not control us. We know the coronavirus is not going to go extinct, but we have the tools, whether it's wastewater tracking, whether it is pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical interventions to stop it, to protect people, and to not let coronavirus disrupt our daily lives.
How much of that, though, has to be tied in with the acknowledgement that there's a lot of parents, including from Massachusetts and other states, who are really angry about how COVID was handled in America's schools? How do Democrats acknowledge that and acknowledge what happened and learn from the Republican victory in Virginia?
By asserting that we are not going to close the schools regardless of what variants or surges may come. We know the coronavirus is unpredictable. We know that there could be new variants that emerge. We are not going to close public schools in America again because of the coronavirus. We have the tools to keep kids and teachers safe. We're going to use them.
And in fairness, rescinding mask mandates, despite the teachers' unions, goes a little bit to that.
Well, and responding to the science, this president has committed from the very beginning he's going to follow public health and science, and he's doing that. We're seeing that hospitalizations is the key metric for the coronavirus, and they are declining precipitously, and thereby mask mandates come down.
What do you and your constituents need to hear from the president about Ukraine?
That the free world is rallying to the Ukrainian cause, and that in addition to the body blows we've given to Vladimir Putin with financial, technical sanctions and with lethal aid to the Ukrainian people, we're going to give him a punch right to the face, and that is going to be energy sanctions. We have got to cut off coal immediately, and we should phase in oil and gas embargoes in consultation with OPEC and the European Union.
How do you explain to the American people that they're paying $6 or $7 in gas to punish Vladimir Putin?
The American consumers are much more buffered from volatility in the energy markets than European consumers are. We've got significant domestic capacity. We do not import very much oil from Russia.
President Biden's own policies have restricted the domestic capacity.
It is a false equivalence to say that somehow restrictions on mining on federal lands or drilling on federal lands is going to prohibit.
Every oil producer I talk to says that there's 1 million+ barrels a day less produced in America today than there was 2 or 3 years ago. That, in every oil producer I talk to, directly relates it to President Biden's policies.
The challenge that we have with Russian energy is much less oil, which Saudi Arabia could backfill if we needed them to, and it's much more natural gas. And that is not a liquid global market. That is a market that is from Russia to the European Union. We need to work in consultation with our European allies to prevent them from having exorbitant heating bills.
Why not say, for the next 5 years, in order to really show Vladimir Putin we're serious, I am going to tonight announce all out for American energy independence. We're going to allow drilling like there's no tomorrow and ensure to the rest of the world, including China, that America can no longer be held hostage.
I think you're putting in a no but when it should be a yes and with energy independence. I agree with my Republican colleagues. We need energy independence. It is a clean energy independence that we need. Geothermal, fusion, solar,
I got to get you on one last thing. 30 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, essentially to lower cost. There is no supply issue. There's a cost issue right now. How does that make sense, and he'll announce it tonight, when there is the potential that we will have a supply issue if all of a sudden we end up in a deeper crisis and a deeper war? Shouldn't we be harboring our resources rather than releasing for a price drop?
I think we need to look at each of these energy sources by themselves. So for oil, it's working with OPEC and in particular Saudi Arabia, because they're the ones who could backfill Russian fall off. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve, it's appropriate to use it in the near term and in the long term. Natural gas, it's about working with our European allies, and particularly Germany and Italy, to let them transition to other energy sources. But we clearly need to stop letting Vladimir Putin use energy as a leverage.
Yeah, and at least now, at least somewhat, the Europeans are waking up to that. Congressman, bipartisan with your Republican members who were on earlier, your colleagues now with the Ukrainian colors on your lapel. Good luck. Have a great time at the speech. Thank you. Good to see you.
Appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate that. When we come back, Mike Allen of Axios, new excerpts from how the White House plans to deal with Ukraine in tonight's speech, and how the speechwriters are working in that possibility of missiles hitting Kyiv during the speech.